Hey guys, my name's James and welcome to Back to the Past. On Back to the Past, we talk about the cars from the past and the present. In today's episode, we're going back to the past on the Holden Torana.
What is this Torana? It's a rally car. It's a road car with 6-cylinder power and compact size. It's Torana. When you're hot, you're hot. It's Torana.
For kids growing up in the 70s, the Holden Torana was what dreams were made of. Nowadays, those kiddies would pay some pretty pennies to get one of these bad boys in their garage. But the Holden Torana wasn't always popular. So let's go back to the past and I'll tell you a story about an ugly duckling that turned into a beautiful, fire-breathing, Bathurst-winning, giant-killing swan. The year is 1967. The Boeing 737 has made its maiden flight. Women are throwing their knickers at Ringo Starr. And Holden have released the first generation Torana, labelled the HB. No, not that HB. That HB. The Torana started out life as a slightly modified Vauxhall Viva, originally made for the English car market. In fact, the only difference between the two were the grille, headlights, wheels and badges. Otherwise, it was pretty much an exercise in badge engineering. Badge engineering is basically where one manufacturer teams up with another to share some resources and basically save a few bucks. A good example is this. For Holden, this was a way into the compact car market, as the Torana represented their first. In striking a deal with Vauxhall, it meant Holden could be competitive on price. The HB was sold for a mere $1,890, which in today's money translates roughly into about $14,000. So about the same money as a Hyundai i20. Let me just say also that the HB, it marked an important milestone for Holden. Not only was it their first compact car, but it made it also possible for many families to afford a motor vehicle. You see, back in the mid-60s, only 2 in 3 families owned a motor vehicle in Australia. And in my opinion, it wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing vehicle to look at, but it was cheap, it was practical, and it also, very importantly, it made it possible for every Torana model thereafter. And plus, with 56 brake horsepower, it was that much more powerful than your horse and car. The last series of the HB had some minor improvements in power, and Holden started making all the body panels locally, because Australia. The HB continued into late 1969, producing a total of 20,243 units. Not bad.
Not bad. Not bad.
We just got word from Houston. Let's go for launch.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
The LC came onto the scene in late 1969, the same year as Apollo 11 was launched, and us Aussies were the only ones with a big enough you-know-what to help track Apollo into space. But enough about big dishes. As for Holden, the LC was available with the same 4-cylinder engine that was offered in the HB. But Holden decided they were going to take a chance. So what did they do? Holden cut the nose off the Torana, made it longer, pointier, and then took an inline 6-cylinder engine and slapped that big boy into that little Torana. And guess what? It paid off. Because who in their right mind doesn't want more power in a small car, right? The 161 cubic inch option pumped out a whopping 108 horsepower at 4,400 RPM.
Groovy, baby.
The 6-cylinder cars had a longer wheelbase by about 4 inches. The more aggressively styled, slightly longer nose changed the entire look and made Australians fall in love with the humble Holden Torana. The same way I love a cold jack on a stinking hot day. Australians loved it that much. In 1969, the Torana was Wheels Magazine Car of the Year. Yeah. Then, when you thought it couldn't get any better, it did.
Say what?
In late 1969, the LC would turn into a real bad boy.
Bad boys, bad boys.
With 2 doors, 173 cubes, twin carbies, front disc brakes and bucket seats straight off the factory floor. What did they call this bad boy? The GTR.
Start with handsome, high-powered styling. Add full coil suspension for beautiful handling. Then add a high-performance 125 horsepower 6-cylinder engine. Fat, road-hugging B70 tires on wide rally wheels. Disc brakes. All the way, and then some. Torana GTR.
The Holden dealer team maestro, Harry Firth, with the help from Holden, quickly recognised the 6-cylinder Torana's potential as a race winner. So, they set out to develop the first genuine performance Torana, the XU1. They did this even before the first GTR hit the showroom floor. The XU1 was developed for competition in the popular production racing series in Australia, as well as off-road rally. However, Holden's main motivation to build the XU1 was to take down the big and powerful Ford Falcon GT V8s in the hardy Ferrota 500. More commonly known these days as Bathurst, to claim the title Giant Killer. For anyone who is not from down under, Bathurst is an endurance race that some consider to be the jewel in the crown of Australian motorsports. So the question was, could this mid-sized GTR Torana with an inline 6 really compete with the big boys? The XU1 come with a 186 cubic inch inline 6, fitted with not 1, not 2, but 3 carbies producing 160 brake horsepower. On a side note, if you're a mechanic, tuning those suckers, it's a job you're going to want to pull a sickie for.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
The GTR XU1 was equipped with cast iron headers, a performance cylinder head and camshaft. This car featured a rear spoiler, guard flutes, wider steel rims, full instrumentation and front disc brakes all as standard. The XU1 was proven to be a strong performer on both road and track due to its impressive power to weight ratio, just like me. It soon gained popularity in Australia, being an ideal race car for many forms of motorsport. But for the famed Bathurst 500 race, sadly, Ford won it again in 1970.
No, God!
And then again in 1971.
No, God, please, no! No!
With its GT Falcon. I don't know if I can go on. But it wasn't all bad. The LC opened up a whole new market for Holden. It was an essential turning point for the conservative manufacturer, as through the mid-60s, Holden was actually losing a lot of money. The LC Torana saved the company from the impending dominance of the Japanese manufacturers. Holden had essentially cut and shut a British economy car to build a sports car for the Australian market. And as a result, Holden built and sold 74,627 LC Toranas. Pretty good effort, I think. To us Australians, the LC Torana was a pretty special car. In 1972, Holden were on a roll. Mickey Mouse gumball machines were a thing.
Is it Penny, Mickey?
And the Australian public were eagerly awaiting Holden's announcement of the new Torana, the LJ. While the Torana was mostly unchanged from LC to LJ, it's worth noting Holden had actually put together a really well thought out combination, a 6 rather than a 4 up front, in a lightweight 2 or 4 door vehicle that had become very much its own product despite its Vauxhall origins. The GTR version came in some pretty sweet colours. There were stripes down the flanks with bold GTR badging and a pretty flash interior that included a Monaro steering wheel and a wild looking set of door cards. But better than all those things was what the GTR was about to borrow from its big brother. A race-bred version of the 202 cubic inch or 3.3 litre engine. With this now, the LJ GTR XU1 was pumping out well over 200 horsepower. With the 202 engine, larger triple carbies, a new close ratio 4-speed gearbox. Now, The nimble XU1 had the power boost it needed to seriously challenge the GT Falcons.
I'm ready to go in, Coach. Just give me a chance.
Well, it's windy and cold up on Mount Panorama at Bathurst, where the Hardy Parade 500-mile endurance race will be starting shortly.
It was a grueling race. It was wet and slippery.
Bond's dropping back a little. Oh, he's sliding a bit. And Moore's right on his tail.
There were crashes.
And look, he's gone. Gibson's wrong. Look, he's still going. Hey, look, just missed him.
But Holden was able to take the lightweight HDT XU1 Torana to victory against the heavyweight GT Falcons.
1 lap to go. 1 lap to victory.
Driven solo for 800 kilometres by none other than Australia's much-loved Peter Brock.
Here he goes.
The Holden dealer team were riding on cloud 9. Harry Firth was so pumped about the win, he was all like, you know what we should do to show it to those GT Falcons? And people at HDT were all like, what, Harry? Let's put a V8 in the Torana. Yeah. The Holden dealer team developed a version of the Torana with a 308 cubic inch V8 pumping out 300 brake horsepower, which back in the day, people have been all like,
Nice. Nice.
While testing the V8 Torana in a sports sedan race in the town of Bathurst, not actually Bathurst itself, Harry Firth had calculated the car, driven by regular HDT driver Colin Bond, reached speeds of 272 kilometres, which is about 169 mile per hour, down Conrod Straight, which was about 2 kilometres long. But after all this, sadly, the V8 Torana never made it past the prototype stage, due to the supercar scare of 1972. The media frenzy that was reporting on these soon-to-be released bullets on wheels, as they called it, which were creating vast political pressures on the big three manufacturers of the day. Holden, Ford and Chrysler were all forced to abandon their proposed specially built Bathurst supercars. What a sad day. And of course, that meant we had to say goodbye to the V8 GDR. But would this be goodbye forever? Would we ever see a V8 Torana racing at Bathurst?
It's never goodbye.
A total of 81,813 LJ Toranas were built by Holdens in Australia. Holdens didn't build himself. A total of 81,813 LJ Toranas were built by Holden in Australia. Happy days.
Movie Tone's review of 1974.
I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days.
And the LH rolled off the factory floor at Holden. The LH had the first completely new body. This meant, for the first time, Holden, from the ground up, had engineered, manufactured and assembled the entire car right here in Australia. People would say that it resembled the Opel Ascona, but they were wrong. It was 100% homegrown Aussie. The LH was larger than its older brothers and only came in a 4-door. Unfortunately, when it came to racing, this created issues for the Holden dealer team. It couldn't fit big wheels, it was boxy so it had bad aerodynamics, and it had a tiny banjo diff, which were all really bad for competitive racing. There were plans to do a 2-door coupe and even a station wagon, but sadly they were not to be. At this stage, you might have thought Holden was losing their touch.
Am I so out of touch?
The Holden dealer team boss, Harry Firth, needed a race car, and this new boxy boy with an inline 6 was not going to cut the mustard. So what did they do? Well, old mate Harry Firth and HCT were with Holden. Get it? With Holden? A tasty little secret. The LH was about to get something that no other Torana had. They called it the SLR 5000, and for the first time in history, the Torana would come with a V8.
That's what I'm talking about!
You could buy the SLR 5000 in a few editions, but the most desired was the Bathurst intended L34 option, of which only 263 were built. The L34 had a high compression engine with more durable components for competitive use. It even got some sick flares to get those big boy tyres under the guards, which definitely beats the garden engine you buy from Bunnings Warehouse. The L34 had proven to be a fast competitor in Australian touring car racing, but fragile. The engine was developed by Repco and had some major oil surging issues on the racetrack. Despite its shortcomings and a loss in 1974, the L34 went on to win Bathurst in 1975 with this exact configuration, keeping the Ford-Holden rivalry very much alive. A total of 70,184 LH Toranas were built. It is now January 1976, Concorde is taking passengers, Australia has made it legal to own gold, and Holden was making their own gold with the LX Torana. By now, Holden had cemented their authority in racing throughout Australia.
And you will respect my authority.
And in the hearts of fans. With the introduction of the LX in 1976, we got a mildly facelifted Torana, because if it's not broke, don't fix it. The most obvious changes were round headlights instead of square ones, side window surrounds were changed from body colour to black, and the front badge was bigger. This seemed to be a pattern with all popular models that Holden produced. Most notably was the Holden Commodore, which was around for nearly 4 decades. Anyway, consumers were crying out to get a two-door version of the Torana again. Gearheads had sorely missed the LJ GDR, and it was just not enough to have a V8 in a small car. People wanted both. With the rise in popularity of coupes, who could blame fans for wanting a homegrown hero again? Plus, nearly every competitor was manufacturing medium-sized cool coupes in 1976, like the Datsun 260C, the Ford Capri, and the Mazda RX-4, just to name a few. Holden had been listening to their fans, and in the summer of 1977, Holden released the A9X, and this is what we got. The A9X was an instant hit. Not only did we get our sports coupe with a V8, it came with an optional tent. Let's get real here. What other car have you seen come with a tent? And if you know one, I'd really like to know in the comments. Holden enthusiasts were in love. And HDT had adopted the A9X version as their preferred vehicle to use on the track. Being a hatchback, it was more rigid, better aerodynamically, and the boss of HDT, Harry Firth, just reckoned it looked cooler. The only question left now, and the most important for many fans of the day, was how would it go at Bathurst. After being rushed into the Group C touring car racing, Peter Brock gave the A9X a dream debut by winning the 1977 Sandown 400. However, after Brock put the Torana on pole position, the A9X ultimately lost its debut at Bathurst in 1977 to the Falcons of Alan Moffat and Colin Bond. But the Torana wasn't done yet. The A9X, shared by Peter Brock and Jim Richards, won in 1978 and 1979 at Bathurst. In a show of the A9X's superiority, Brock and Richards won the 1979 race by a record 6 laps, with Brock setting the touring car race record on the last lap of the race. The A9X would go down in Australia's history as one of the greats. Fast forward to 2020, one of these A9X variants sold for $910,000 at auction. Pretty impressive considering that you could buy one in 1977 for $2,600. That's not too shabby as far as investments go. Overall, a total of 65,977 Toranas were built. In 1978, the UC Torana was released. It featured a significantly more modernised front and a completely new interior. The UC came in 2 body types, a 4-door sedan and a 2-door hatch. But as far as engine options went, the UC only had a 6-cylinder option, with the 4-cylinder option being renamed and released as Sunbirds. And if you're a Torana fan waiting for the new sports model, you'd be disappointed, as the UC would mark the demise of the V8 Torana. After the release of the VB Commodore in 1978, it soon became clear to Holden that the Torana was just too similar and that maybe we can't have both. In 1980, the Torana was dropped from the lineup. It was the end of an era. Never again would this homemade, Bathurst-winning giant killer see the light of day. For at least a while there was talk of a UD Torana. Prototypes of a sedan and even a hatchback were actually built, but it was little too late. With the fast evolution of the new Japanese opposition, Holden decided not to pursue it. There have been new concept Toranas over the years, teasing us of a comeback, but none of which have gotten to the production line, which is a damn shame if you ask me. Well, that's been the video on Holden Torana. Thanks for watching. This video is actually our first, so we'd actually really like to hear back what you thought of it, what you liked, what you didn't like. Please like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for going back to the past with me. If there is a car you'd like us to cover, please hit us up in the comments and I'll see you next time.